Hello everyone.
Thank you so much for joining. Mohammed here from Shimadzu, Dubai office. I welcome you all to our webinar session. Today's session 10 must know cost saving tips before you buy and install a universal testing machine is a consolidation of my last 12 years of experience. Since last 12 years, I am working with thousands of customers from Middle East and Africa from diversified industries include plastics and packaging industry, metal industries, third-party labs, universities, etc., to assist them in procuring the right universal testing machine. Many times I have seen customers losing their money and time because of different reasons include incorrect selection of accessories or wrong extensometer selection or mistakes in installation site readiness, etc. I remember one experience of mine where customer paid more money than the machine price itself for bringing the machine inside to their lab. So today I will be talking about few such experiences. I hope this webinar will be useful for you to understand more about the universal testing machine and will help you to save money and time when you buy a universal testing machine next time. With that said, let's go to the main session. Number 1, grips and accessory selection. Buying a wrong or an incorrect grips and accessories is one important area where many customers lose their money. Few years back, I remember one experience of mine working on a tender inquiry from an African university where customer bought accessories for more than 5,000 US dollar, which is of no use to their research purpose. So let me give you some useful tips for selecting the correct accessories. First of all, understand completely about your test requirement, the maximum load, the elongation requirement, the standards, the type of test you want to do, etc. Careful selection of mainframe and the load cell. I have an experience where one of my customer bought a 50 kilonewton machine and later we realized that the customer load requirement range was in just few hundred newtons. As you know, UTM have hundreds of accessories. The proper selection of grips according to your requirement is very important. Grips are of different types, manual type, pneumatic type, hydraulic type, etc. So selection of proper grip which suits your requirement is also important. If you have many samples to test, then buying an automatic grip, pneumatic or hydraulic, will help you to save lot of time. One of our customer, a third-party lab, recently replaced their manual grip with pneumatic grip and was very happy as the gripping time reduced drastically, which enabled them to test many multiple number of samples a day. Even the same grip have different grip face option. For example, sometimes polymer or thin film type samples may need rubber coated grip faces. Some other samples like geotextile might need wave type grip faces. So all accessories should be carefully selected. If grip is not carefully selected or properly selected, it may cause specimen slippage or premature failure. Non-uniform samples may need special grip faces. Also, as I explained, understanding the machine specification is also very important. Height of the machine, width of the machine, crosshead travel, load cell class, extensometer class, etc. Samples like strand wire or FRP rebar, the gauge length requirement is very large. In such case, extended length frame is mandatory. Once the purchase is done, it will be very expensive to modify the machine. As you can see in the picture, apart from normal tensile grips, there are many grips possible with a universal testing machine. Compression pattern, bending fixture, roller grips, coefficient of friction, peel, shear, tear, etc. etc. So select the most suitable grips according to your test requirement, and equally important, deselect the grips which you don't want. As I mentioned previously, sometimes the grip might be the same, but grip faces are different. So make sure that you purchase a grip which best suits your samples. Get the advice from supplier in advance. From Shimadzu, we have separate accessory catalog for our hydraulic systems, electromechanical systems, and dynamic test systems. You can get this downloaded from the handouts. Also, Shimadzu have a special platform called TMC, Testing Machine Configurator. If in case you are very new to UTM purchase and have no idea which accessories should be selected, TMC is the best tool for you, and TMC platform help you for a step-by-step configuration of a system which suits your exact requirement. You can search Testing Machine Configurator Shimadzu in Google and you will land in the TMC page. Moving on to the second point, extensometer selection. Extensometer is another area where many customers make mistakes in selecting a proper one which suits their requirement. For those who don't know what's an extensometer, extensometer is an additional accessory used with the universal testing machine to measure the elongation of the sample with precision. Of course, we can measure the elongation or strain from the crosshead movement also, but sometimes crosshead accuracy is not enough to measure the strain or elongation with precision. I have numerous experience, especially in tenders, where customer bought the extensometer together with the machine, and later they again bought another extensometer separately because the first one was not matching their requirement. Basically, extensometer are used for four purposes. Number one, strain and elongation measurement. Number two, strain control testing. Some standards specifically recommend strain control testing. Number three, determine the accurate proof stress and proof strain. And number four, compliance with the standard. Some standards demand use of extensometer as mandatory. So careful selection of extensometer will help you to save money, especially tenders, university tenders. I recommend all the end user to give more detailed information. Be well aware of your specimen thickness, gauge length, elongation, temperature requirement, etc. Extensometers are broadly classified into contact type and non-contact type, which I will be talking the details in next slide. Video extensometer can be used in areas where conventional contact type extensometer have practical difficulty. Extensometer may also require yearly calibration, so if this is required, inform the supplier in advance. Extensometers are broadly classified into two types, contact type and non-contact type extensometer. Contact type extensometers are physically attached to the specimen during testing, which include strain gauge type, differential transducer type, fully automatic type, and other type include CTOD, crack tip opening displacement, deflection measurement, etc. Where non-contact type include video and laser extensometer, where extensometer will not be in physical contact with the sample during the test. Both have its own advantages and limitations, so discuss in detail with the supplier about the application if you are new to extensometer. Automatic type is a kind of extensometer which will measure the complete elongation until break and no need to remove the extensometer in between the test. Normally, automatic extensometers are expensive when compared to contact type extensometers. Let me give you a brief idea about video extensometer. Video extensometers are non-contact type extensometer. Video extensometer is especially useful when the sample is thin film or foil which have the possibility of damage when contact type is clipped. Video extensometer is also useful for measuring the displacement inside the chamber. Video extensometer have advantage when customer want to measure the transverse strain together with the lateral strain or measurement like Poisson's ratio, Langford value, etc. Important point, video extensometer is normally expensive. If your requirement is just recording the video or point picking or photo reporting, then no need of video extensometer. A Microsoft camera is enough and you can integrate the result with our Trapezium X software. These are normal kind of contact type extensometer. You can see the clip-on type and this should be removed before sample breaking. This is automatic type extensometer. High elongation samples, for example rubber or thin film, need long travel type extensometer. So if your material is rubber or plastic samples which is of high elongation in nature, please buy long travel type DSCS extensometer. This is Microsoft camera and this is video extensometer. If only point picking and photo recording is enough, then a Microsoft camera integrated with our trapezium software is enough for the requirement. Moving on to the next point, chamber selection, a very important aspect where many customers find challenging. As you all know, for temperature and humidity control test, we need a chamber or a furnace. There are few factors to be considered when selecting a chamber. Machine now, chamber later customers. Many times I saw customer buy the machine first and they plan the chamber purchase in future. For such customers, below are some checkpoints which help you to pre-plan the chamber purchase. First of all, you should have a very thorough knowledge about your sample, the gauge length, the elongation requirement, thickness of the sample, the standards you follow, etc. Otherwise, we might end up in purchasing a chamber which is not matching our test requirement. Knowledge of test conditions like temperature, humidity are also very important, and this have to be cross-checked with the chamber specification before you buy the chamber. Thorough knowledge of grips, grip faces, pull rods, extensometer are also very important. High temperature chamber may require high temperature extensometer too. Many years back, I remember a mistake of mine where once I supplied a chamber and a high temperature grip to one customer, but the grip faces I selected was normal temperature type, which customer find it very challenging to use inside the chamber. Sometimes chiller cooling water is also required, like for grip cooling, extensometer cooling, etc. If the chiller is not purchased separately, customer may have to arrange the continuous cooling water supply in the lab. So discuss the chiller requirement with supplier in advance. By the way, don't confuse the chamber with the furnace. Chamber is normally up to 500 degree. Furnace is 900 degrees Celsius or 1100 degrees Celsius or more. This is the picture of a chamber. Since the grips, extensometer, grip faces, pull rods, etc. are inside the chamber, make sure the temperature specification of all these accessories are meeting up with the chamber requirement. Sometimes the grips are too bulky that it might not fit inside the chamber. So please make a note on inner dimensions of the chamber before ordering any special grips from the supplier. Extended length frame model may require to accommodate the chamber, so check the height requirement of the machine in advance. As I mentioned, chamber and furnaces are different. This is the furnace where customer use this for temperature for 900 degree or 1100 degree or more. Fourth point, installation site requirement. This is another challenge we face during many installation. Installation site readiness is customer responsibility. Please pay attention to this, discuss with the UTM supplier in advance and make sure the site is completely ready before installation visit of the engineer. I have many previous experience where customer have failed to arrange the site requisites, lost both time and money in arranging a second installation visit. Mechanical, electrical, plumbing jobs are basically customer responsibility unless otherwise agreed earlier with the supplier. Power requirement, confirm the power requirement in advance. Sometimes it might need high rating breakers or some special power requirement. Sometimes step up or step down transformers according to your country voltage and power specification. So discuss this with supplier and make sure required power is available for smooth installation. Important point, hydraulic machine may need strong floor concreted foundation. So discuss the foundation requirement in advance and make sure the site is ready for installation. If any pneumatic accessories are purchased, either purchase a compressor additionally or do arrange the pneumatic air supply in the lab. Sometimes cooling water supply is required for some machine. For example, some hydraulic grips or high temperature extensometer might need cooling water supply. In such cases, make sure the chiller is purchased additionally or ensure the cooling water availability in the lab. For tabletop machine, arrange strong tables. We have one experience in one customer site where upon keeping a 500 kilogram machine on the tabletop bended, and we have very tough time in taking the machine back from the table and reinstall it on another table. Height of the machine, this is also important aspect every UTM customer should know in advance. We have experience with one customer where when we installed the machine was touching the roof of the laboratory. Width is also important. Sometimes customer sample are wide. For example, corrugated cartoon, some non-uniform samples, etc. In such cases, make sure the machine width is enough to accommodate the sample. Some case studies, I have one experience where once we installed a tabletop machine on the floor as the customer supplied table was not adequate to withstand the machine weight. You can see here in another customer place we installed the machine by removing the roof as the height was inadequate. Also, as I mentioned, sometimes some non-uniform or full-scale specimen may require custom-made UTM. So if your sample is unique, discuss these details in advance with the supplier in order not to lose any money. Height of the machine is also important. Sometimes samples like flexible plastics, rubber, etc. need extra height machine as the elongation of such materials are more. Sometimes 1400 percentage, 1500 percentage elongations. So in such cases, select the extra frame length. Moving on to next point, transportation of the machine to the lab. Transportation of the machine to the lab. This is another major challenge we face during many installation visits. Once the machine is delivered to the factory, we find many customers struggle to bring the machine inside to their lab, especially big machines. So I would like to share with you some advices for planning the installation in advance. Forklift crane entry. UTM machines are heavy, especially hydraulic machines may weigh many tons. So as you all can imagine, forklift is needed to handle the machine. Make sure that there is enough space for the forklift to reach the installation site without any hindrance. Special attention to doors and corridors. Measure the door size in advance and make sure forklift will pass through the door smoothly. If overhead cranes are available, you can make use of overhead cranes, no problem, but make sure overhead cranes are tested and certified. Make sure there is no any hindrance in the way to the lab which block the forklift from reaching the installation site. If you are planning a new lab, get the expert advice in advance. And most important, don't forget, safety is the most important priority. We have many experience where the machine dropped while lifting. Now I would like to share with you some experience to get more idea about this problem. You can see in this picture one customer site, since the door was very small, it was very challenging for us to take the machine inside. We have experience with some customers that we broke the wall to take the machine inside as there was no option for forklift to reach the installation site. Another example, one customer site, we use boom crane to lift the machine on the top of the roof and insert the machine from the top as there was no space for the forklift to enter the site. Another lab, we have experienced that customer want to get the machine inside to their QC lab, but their QC lab door was very small that it was impossible to take the machine inside through the door. Few years back, I remember one installation experience in a university where the doors were very small and we removed air from the forklift tire for taking the machine inside. Another example, during one installation, the forklift height was few centimeter more than the door height and we were struggling to bring the machine inside. Especially big factories have overhead cranes. In such cases, make sure that crane is certified for lifting the machine weight. Sometimes machine weighs 5 or 6 tons. Safety is very important. If the machine height is more, you may have to arrange a stairs for easy insertion of the sample. So discuss this matter with the supplier in advance. To avoid that, you can install the machine in a pit also. Discuss with the supplier for the possibility of this if you are interested in installing in a pit. So to conclude, logistics of the machine to the lab must be pre-planned. Before ordering the machine, make sure the supplier have visited the site and have a clear idea about the logistics of the machine to your lab. Moving on to the next point, international standards. This is mainly for new customers or new plants or a factory which starts a new lab where customer have no experience in UTM. We regularly receive calls from such new customers asking for a machine where customer have limited idea about the machine or how to conduct the test on their samples and asking us to help in selecting the suitable machine. In this case, we recommend those customers to look for the industry standards. There are many industry international standards like ASTM, BS, EN, ISO, Japanese standard, etc. So if you know your standard, it will be easier for the supplier to configure and code the system which suits your exact requirement. If you have any previous test reports of your sample available, sharing this with the supplier will help you in getting a system which suits your requirement. Moving on to the next point, calibration of the machine. This is another point where many customers always ask our advice. ISO 17025 recommend yearly calibration of universal testing machine unless otherwise specified. Standard also recommend that once the machine is moved or repaired or adjusted, the previous calibration is invalid. So after installation, calibration is a must even though it is a brand new machine. So upon getting the machine in your factory, please recalibrate it on site to comply with ISO 17025 requirement. For force calibration in Middle East and Africa region, normally customers follow either ASTM E4 or BSEN ISO 7500-1. Both have some minor difference, so it is better to specify the standard in advance. Calibration can be done in tensile or compression mode. Do the supplier know your requirement in advance? For routine inspection, you may buy load cell inspection kit from the supplier and you can check the accuracy of load cell on a weekly basis or a monthly basis. This is a reference picture for doing the calibration in compression mode. You can see the master load cell here. As I mentioned, for routine inspection, you can buy the load cell inspection kit, dead weights of 100 Newton each. As I previously explained, ASTM E4 and BSEN ISO 7500-1 are the two most common standards for force verification of testing machine. You can select the standard according to your requirement. Moving to next point, backup machine. This might not be important for all, but I would like to highlight this point as I have seen some customers really struggling because of this matter. Many production companies, especially metal companies, the tensile testing is an integral part of their daily operation and tests cannot be stopped even for one day. We have many of our customers do hundreds of tests each day. We always recommend such extensive users to have a bystand machine, especially when the machine is getting old, or at least stock the necessary consumable. Normal delivery period of such big hydraulic instruments are 2 to 3 months. So anticipate this in advance and plan accordingly. Next point, document the training session. This is a practical tip I can recommend to UTM customers. I have a couple of experience where we give the training to customers. After sometimes the technician had left the company and customer again spend money for another training session. So we always recommend our customers to record and document the training session so that they can refer later. Coming to my final point, fatigue testing machine. I would like to talk a little bit about fatigue testing systems. I believe this will be useful especially for universities and educational institutes. Sometimes we receive tender inquiries for testing machine where tender specification requests the machine which can do everything, which means tensile, compression, bending, peel, dynamic, creep, fatigue, endurance, etc. Tests like tensile, compression, bending, peel, etc. are static or monotonic testing. And with relevant grips, we can do this test with the same machine. Whereas dynamic or creep or fatigue or endurance tests are completely different. Let me give you a quick note about these tests. Static tests. Static tests are tests where we apply the force until the specimen breaks. In dynamic testing, a small load, normally lesser than yield point, applies multiple times. Tests may last for many days or even months. In creep testing, a constant load is applied over a period of time. Sometimes creep tests take months or years. In such cases, normal static machine cannot be used. Fatigue testing to measure the number of loading cycle to break a sample. We cannot do fatigue testing with a static machine. Endurance to test whether the sample is breaking within a specific number of cycle or not. We cannot do endurance testing with a static machine. When selecting a fatigue or a dynamic testing machine, unlike the static test systems, there are many parameters which have to be carefully selected. Type of the test, high cycle or low cycle, loading mode, compression mode, tensile mode, bending mode, waveform, sine, triangular, and the kind of test piece, flat, round, maximum force or maximum displacement, speed and frequency, amplitude, test control, force control, strain gauge control or displacement control, etc. We have a ready-made sheet available which help you in selecting a fatigue testing machine which suits your requirement. You can contact us for these sheets and we are happy to send the PDF copy. So by this I am finishing the 10 important points. You are always welcome to contact us for any kind of technical queries related to the testing machine. Before winding up, I would like to talk in short about Shimadzu testing machine. Shimadzu is one of the oldest company in the world who started testing machine manufacturing. Shimadzu started its operation in 1875 in Kyoto, Japan, and in 1917 we made our first UTM for textile and cement application. We have now more than 104 years of experience in manufacturing and supplying the testing machine to global customers. In 1983, Shimadzu released the computerized autograph universal testing machine, which is the first computerized universal testing machine in the world. In static machines, Shimadzu have single column EZX up to 5 kN and double column autograph machine up to 600 kN as standard, and high capacity hydraulic test systems up to 4000 kN, which cover the entire range of material testing, include tissues, packaging materials, plastics, metal wires, strand wires, rebar, coupler, nuts and bolts, etc. Shimadzu Middle East and Africa Regional Headquarter and Training Center is located in Jebel Ali, Dubai, and the branch office in Istanbul, Turkey, and a subsidiary office in South Africa, where we support our customers and distributor network in the Middle East and Africa region. Shimadzu have more than 500 testing machine installation in the region, which makes us one of the strongest UTM supplier in the Middle East and Africa market. Shimadzu Dubai and Shimadzu Istanbul training centers are well equipped with different testing machine for customers and distributor training purpose and application development purpose. Customers regularly visits our training center for getting the advanced training and also to check their sample before purchasing the universal testing machine. By this, I am winding up the session. Thank you so much for joining. I'd like to mention a quote from a famous engineer from Japan, Mr. Taguchi. Cost is more important than quality, but quality is the best way to reduce cost. Please feel free to write to us if you have any further questions. Thank you.